The West Virginia Mountaineers travel out west to the desert to face the Arizona State Sun Devils in another Big 12 road contest. The 4-6 Mountaineers versus the 6-3 Sun Devils. In this episode of the Golden Blue Breakdown Show, Jonathan and I are going to break the game down, give our keys, our position battles, our key player to watch, and our score prediction, and we're going to do it right now. What's up, Jonathan? How you doing?
Couz, I said last week we're having fun, and we're really having fun now, right?
Yeah.
What's this thing they call a winning streak? Is that
That's
right.
What
we're on?
That's right, baby.
You know, took us a little late in the season maybe to catch their stride a little bit, but you know what? I tell you, you have to give this team some credit, don't you? I mean,
yeah, they're fighting, man. They're fighting. That's all you can ask, right?
That's it. And we said even last week on the show, it's like they've been given every reason under the sun, whether it be just new players, transition period, injuries, just kind of depleted, to be honest. Yet I feel like they're playing their best football of the season. So winning is fun. And right now, West Virginia sure is having a lot of fun, although it's going to be tougher, I think, this week.
Yep, I agree, man. I agree. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing we always do is give our keys to the game. Our 3 keys to the game. So what you got for your first key?
Yeah, because first off, I think obviously Rich Rodriguez has handed the keys to the offense, especially over to Scotty Fox. And so for me, it's going to be limit the turnovers. You know, I think West Virginia was able to get by. Actually, let's revert back a couple weeks ago. I think one of the reasons why the team in general, but specifically Scotty Fox, played really well and at a high level is the turnovers. They won that turnover battle, and they didn't put the ball on the floor, make costly interceptions, anything like that. Last week, I thought there was a brief period of time where Scotty got a little bit nervous, a little bit antsy, and he rushed a couple things. So for me, I think, especially going on the road, because West Virginia was able to survive that last week and play in an Arizona team that I think still has an outside chance, I think, maybe at playing for the Big 12 championship game. They're going to be ready coming off of a bye week, and I think if you're going on the road and you're playing Arizona State and you're double-digit underdogs at last check, limit turnovers, especially if you're Scotty Fox. You know, you go back to last week, it was back-to-back. One was one where it probably just was a misread, and one just should have held on to the ball, and I know that offensive line was beat on the play, and he didn't have much time to react, but you can't make an antsy throw. And so if you're going to pull off an upset this week on the road against Arizona State, I don't say you have to play perfect football, but you have to limit your turnovers and win the battle there.
Agreed. I like it. I actually almost went that route, but I didn't. But I did go – I went with the other quarterback. I'm going to talk about the other quarterback for a minute. My first key is Jeff Sims. You know, Sam Levitt is out for the game, right? We know that.
Yeah.
He's out for the season. Jeff Sims is a veteran. This is his 3rd team. He's been with Georgia Tech, then Nebraska, now Arizona State. And he's not going to hurt you much in the passing game. At least he hadn't so far. Now, we know that West Virginia's defense has a tendency to make young quarterbacks or backup quarterbacks or bad quarterbacks look great, right? So hopefully they don't do that again. But he can flat out run the football. Last game against Iowa State, he ran for 228 yards on 29 carries and had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Can you contain him in the run game? That's going to be the key. I think if they can do that and make this team somewhat one-dimensional, which they've done a pretty good job of the last couple of weeks, they're doing a really good job stopping the run, but they haven't faced a quarterback the last couple of weeks that can run it like this guy. But if they can contain him, force him to throw the football, and hopefully force him to throw it some under pressure, I think he might give us a couple. And I think West Virginia can force a couple interceptions, maybe a couple fumbles, and maybe even get some turnover on downs, you know, because his completion percentage right now is only 51% on the year. He's thrown 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. For his career, he's thrown 28 touchdowns and 27 interceptions.
Yeah.
So he will give it away. He will give it to you. And so, you know, I think containing him in the run game, now they do have a pretty good running back, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But my biggest concern is Jeff Sims running the football, because I think that might be the core focus of this offense potentially without Levitt and without some of their other star players, which I'm sure we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah. That
to me is the focus. And if you can do that, I really, really like West Virginia's chances of winning the game.
Yeah, completely agree. And won't get into too much information about Sims because, as you would imagine, it's going to be a hot topic in tonight's show, especially with Sam Levitt out. Because I tell you one, the interesting thing about Sims is especially in his running ability is his size, right? 6'4", 220 pounds. And so just, when you think Jeff Sims, the runner, or the quarterback, the runner, you kind of think more of that 6'1", 6'2", 205 pounds. He was a big kid, big young man. And so, yeah, adds a little bit more element there to him. So definitely agree with your point, and I'll have a little bit more on Sims as we go forward.
All right. I like it. All right. What is your second key to the game for West Virginia?
Yeah, Couz, for me, and it kind of actually plays off of not limit many turnovers, but I think we've got to find a way, if West Virginia, to get Cam Vaughn the football. In my opinion, he's the most dynamic player on offense for West Virginia at this point. He makes the game much more comfortable and slows everything down for Scotty Fox. West Virginia has fortunately been able to run the football. However, this week, as there was last week, there appears to be some questions about health along the offensive line, health at the running back position. How healthy is Dior Hubbard going to be this week? And for me, there was so much buildup around Cam Vaughn transferring in this season from Jacksonville State, and rightfully so. And we have seen spurts of Cam Vaughn because he's had 3 catches the last couple weeks combined. Now, in fairness, he has been targeted quite a bit, and some of those have been missed throws from Scotty Fox. But somehow, some way, I think West Virginia has to incorporate Cam Vaughn into the offensive game plan. Because let's be honest, West Virginia is a better football team offensively when Cam Vaughn has the football in his hands. And when he is able to get into open space or downfield, he has shown his production. But I think that's a player and a position where West Virginia has to get a little bit more out of. And so somehow, if I'm Rich Rodriguez, I'm making Cam Vaughn a focal point of my offense this week, and I'd like to see West Virginia focus on getting him the ball a little bit more.
I like it. I agree with you 100%. It's been a struggle. You mentioned you mentioned some missed throws. Teams are also, without having Jaden Bray on the other side.
Sure.
I mean, Jeff Weimer has started to come on these last couple of weeks some, but Jeff Weimer doesn't have that speed that somebody like a Jaden Bray would have on the other side. He's a good route runner and he can catch the football, but he just doesn't have the same burst or the same athleticism, I guess you could say, as somebody like Bray or Vaughn has. So not having that complementary piece on the other side may be hurting. But if Jeff Weimer can continue to play the way he's played, it might help take some of that pressure off of Vaughn and maybe give him more opportunities. Let's hope that happens this week. We'll see. Because I think Jeff Weimer's done enough now that teams are going to have to pay attention to him.
Yeah.
But is it enough to take some of the attention away from Vaughn? It's yet to be determined, and I guess we'll find out Saturday.
Yeah.
My second key, and by the way, I know somebody's probably going to talk about this in the comment section, so I might as well address it. Yes, it's a Marshall M on my shirt, and it says a West Virginia show. But
I was going to leave.
My daughter
alone.
Yeah, my daughter goes to school there, and I got this when I attended the Family Day event. So
and just
I get
in
a pass
case
for that.
Just in case, even though it is your channel, and I'm not trying to overthrow the host here.
I noticed,
but.
That's
okay. Sorry, that says West Virginia.
That's why one reason I said it because
that says West Virginia.
I know somebody's going to rib me about this. I might as well address it now. Honestly, they might not have even noticed it had I not said anything.
Maybe not.
But anyway, for those listening, I'm wearing a shirt that says Marshall Parent and Family Programs.
Tune in next week for updates on the Marshall Thundering Herd. I'm just kidding.
They are 4-5. I do know. And then they've lost 2 in a row. I do know that. They won the game I went to. All right. My second key, and this is a little bit more broad, but keep the game close or have a lead at the end of the game. And if that happens, halfway through the fourth quarter, I feel a lot better about West Virginia's chances because we've seen Rich Rodriguez teams, and these last couple games, we've seen it. The defenses tend to wear down, and even West Virginia can struggle to run the football the whole game. But for whatever reason, the last few minutes of the game, they can wear down the opposing defense, and they can pretty much run the football at will. At least they have the last couple of weeks. And if they can wear down the Arizona State defense, keep the game close, maybe even have a little bit of a lead late in the fourth quarter, I really like West Virginia's chances. Because I think that's the key. That their goal is to be the most well-conditioned team in the league in the country, and I think they have partially achieved that. And I think it has shown the last couple games. You mentioned I think you kind of touched on Dior Hubbard earlier. I think he's going to be important to this. So keep it close late, or hopefully have a slight lead, and that's definitely an advantage to West Virginia. What do you think?
I think this is episode 51, right? And it amazes me that you and I have points to this day that are the most random in terms of similarities. Even when we think we have thrown the other for a curveball, it doesn't always work that way, right? I guess I can piggyback off of yours, and I guess I can maybe just kind of segue into my third key, because it plays exactly into what you were saying, and that is keep the game close until the end. Ironically, the reason why I said that is if you'll go back, Couz, and you'll look at both Arizona State and West Virginia the last couple of weeks, they have been in some very close games up until the very end. It was 3 weeks ago when Arizona State beat Texas Tech by 4, and West Virginia was in a very tight battle against TCU. And then you'll look at the Houston game for Arizona State. Now, there was a bye week mixed in here, but just follow along with me. West Virginia, obviously, in a very close game. To your point, they just kind of hung around, but a very close game against Houston. Won the game. Arizona State lost to Houston, but by 8, very close. And then let's revert back again last week. West Virginia in a very, very close game against Colorado. Arizona State was on a bye week, but the week prior to that, their third game, they beat Iowa State by 5. So the last 3 weeks have shown that both West Virginia and Arizona State have been locked in to extremely close contests all the way to the very end of the football game. And so obviously you and I agree on this. There's no reason to think this, especially on paper, has all the makings of another close football game. And so it just amazes me that you and I are going to come up with the same points, even when we think we've thrown the other maybe a curveball. But that was my third key as well, is that both teams have been locked into extremely close games, specifically down this final stretch of the season. And so we have no reason to think they're not going to be. And so whichever one can kind of keep it close or maybe pull away might have a little bit more of an advantage this Saturday.
Wow. We've overlapped once already.
Yeah, it's the irony here is when I sat down to do some notes of mine, I even kind of, we're 51 episodes into this, right? So you can't help but to think in the back of your mind, he won't get this one. He won't get this one. Yet you got it. So, or I got yours, whatever. But it's funny how that works.
Yep. All right. My third key is, you said that was your third one, right?
Yes.
Okay, so your third one, my second one. My third key is, and this is kind of I don't know, maybe I kind of cheated here, I don't know, but I'm kind of looking at the whole situation, right? You got West Virginia, who's coming off a 2-game win streak, something they haven't experienced all year. How do they handle that? Can they handle success? Because that is a challenge. Coach Kenny Dillingham even talked about that in his press conference, I think, this week. His team has not done a good job handling success, according to him. The other part of that, it's kind of a 2-part answer for me, is how does Arizona State handle coming off a bye week? They're 0-1 off of byes, just like West Virginia is. And Kenny Dillingham did not even practice his team last week. He said he was going to give them the entire week off. I don't know how often football coaches do that in the middle of a season.
I've not heard of that.
Now, it could end up being a great idea and working miraculously. It could also blow up in their face, and they come out extremely rusty. So it'll be interesting to see which team, how does West Virginia handle success, and how does Arizona State handle not practicing for a week and coming off a bye after winning a game over Iowa State, and handling success somewhat in their own right. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see which team handles which their respective scenarios the best.
Yeah, if West Virginia is in the indication, they are obviously feeling really good about themselves, and we were curious, Couz, about last week. How would West Virginia bounce back or come back after a big win? And they looked really good, especially early defensively, especially. So yeah, I'm not sure how that decision. I mean, it's going to be determined, obviously, and I would kind of defer to some people maybe that have been more on the coaching side or something like that than I have. But I've heard of a day. I've heard of maybe 2 days off. I don't know that I've really went to the extreme before of that much time. So
yeah.
Myself now, it makes you wonder. I mean, Arizona State's a little banged up, so some of these players are not coming back for this game. So, be curious to see if that was a health thing to where just kind of some 50-50 players, but to be determined, right?
Yep.
How that plays out.
Absolutely. Yep. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our next segment. I just realized we forgot to talk about the Colorado game, but that's okay.
Well, we did say that we're having a lot of fun.
We did say that. All right, next segment.
And I wonder if there's still some hair on Mountaineer Field from
from
a wonderful sack.
Yeah, Marshawn Oxley sacked was it Marshawn Oxley? I think it was.
Yeah, it was. And that's a side note, and we're probably too far along to kind of revert all the way back, but it's funny how that took a life of its own on social media. Like, I was amazed, especially from the Colorado side, Couz, that there were people that were actually upset about that. Like, I didn't think that was debatable. Do you wear that hair? Is that right? Is that the right saying? You wear that hair, or you have your hair like that?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to know that that's you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know that was debatable until I saw Colorado people really upset about that.
Yeah, I don't understand it either.
Don't
grow your hair long,
or tuck that stuff in. I guess
tuck it in, whatever. Yeah. I mean,
either way.
Anyway,
either way.
Real quick though, we can go ahead and I'll go ahead and get your thought. I've already done my recap of the game. What were your thoughts on the game? We'll go ahead and do that real quick before we jump into the two position battles.
Yeah, I mean, well, defensively, it really stood out to me that West Virginia played. This defense has been really good in spurts and a little bit more prolonged periods, Couz, but I was really, really excited to see how they came out and played. I mean, that first half of football they looked really good. Really good. And then I think you have to credit Colorado a little bit too. But so that was impressive. I would also say the fans who came out for that game, one of my thoughts was I cannot wait until West Virginia fields a very successful football team, because that place is going to be rocking. Because if that crowd shows up for this football team, I refuse to believe that there's not a ton of excitement around this program, even on a down season. And then I think you see the keys and the pieces to the puzzle offensively coming together. Dior Hubbard, young, Scotty Fox, young. There's some offensive linemen that are eligible to come back. Cam Vaughn come back. I thought it was a good game for West Virginia because there were times where everything went well. There were times when they were faced with a little bit of adversity, and then there were times, obviously, at the very end, they were able to overcome that, and that was kind of the perfect ending to that game. So it was really good to see, and it's good for the players and this staff to have a smile on their face leaving the home field advantage. That's for sure.
I agree. All right, let's go ahead and do our. Actually, real quick, I got to give a shout out to Appalachia Digital. You see the logo behind me, WV Sports Chat. That's the website Jonathan and I are partnering on over at the website, WVSportsChat.com. Anyway, the folks who designed that are Appalachia Digital. They did a really good job designing that site. And I think, if you want a new site, that's the folks you need to go see. Go check them out, AppalachiaDigital.com. Use /Couz. Let them know I sent you. They can also upgrade your current site if you already have one. They'll take care of you. So go check them out today. AppalachiaDigital.com /Couz. And also going to pause one more second for a quick shout out to my other sponsor, folks over at DraftKings Sportsbook.
One play can change a season. One upset can silence a stadium. With every snap, the stakes get higher, and no one brings you closer to the action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting. From live betting to odds, boosts, and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action from kickoff to the final whistle. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Own every Saturday with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Couz. That's code Couz to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
All right, Jonathan, let's go ahead and dive into two position battles to watch. What you got, man?
So I'm going to do the West Virginia defense versus Jeff Sims specifically. Told you earlier in the show I was going to touch on him a little bit, and I think the biggest thing for what I mean here is I think they need to make Jeff Sims a passing quarterback and not a running quarterback. Because I went back and looked at his career stats, and I'll say first off that Jeff Sims has been around for a while, all the way back to 2020 when he threw for almost 1,900 yards. But his completion percentage was pretty interesting to me. Majority of his times, except for one time over his career, did he hit 60% completion percentage, and that was 60.1. So He's pretty much been in the 50%. In fact, this year he is at 50%. Last year, 52%. But now you noted earlier, I mean, he ran all over the field against Iowa State 2 weeks ago, but he didn't throw the ball very well. It was 54%. And so I think you've got to make Jeff Sims a thrower. If you can just sit back, and he's going to be without Jordan Tyson, a key weapon receiver for Arizona State. So if you can make him a thrower, historically speaking, that has not been his strong suit. And so for this defense, especially with Tyson out for Arizona State, you want to sit back and make him beat you with his arm rather than his legs.
I like it. And you're 100% right. And, that kind of goes along with what I mentioned earlier as far as my keys. I think that's definitely important. I just think he, along with the guy that I'm going to talk about right now, are going to be the two most important pieces to this offense. And so my first position battle is the West Virginia linebackers, and this could really go for the whole front seven, but I'm going to single out the linebackers for the sake of this exercise, against running back Raleek Brown. Raleek Brown has carried the ball 137 times for 770 yards, averaging 5.6 yards per carry. He is basically filling in for Cam Scatterbo. Now, he's no Cam Scatterbo, right?
Right.
But he's doing a pretty darn good job. I mean, he's potentially could hit 1,000 yards. And then not only that, he's also the tie for second as the most targeted player in the passing game. He's been targeted 40 times this year, has 28 receptions, 167 yards on the year. So he's not only crucial in the run game, but he's also crucial in the pass game too. And with Jordan Tyson being out, he's been, just to give you an idea, he's been targeted 40 times. Talking about Brown, he tied for second with tight end Shimon Mateer, who, by the way, is also a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
Look out for him. But they've both been targeted 40 times. Jordan Tyson has been targeted 90 times. That's how big of a deal him being out is. I mean, that's insane to me. The two guys tied for second don't even add up to his 90. I mean, that's how good of a player he is. So without him, people like Brown have to step up and play even better. So I think, if the West Virginia linebackers are going to have to really know where he's going at all times, he might be leaking out of the backfield, like we saw Dior Hubbard do for West Virginia last week, leaking out, in wheel routes and screens and everything else. So be aware of him at all times and make sure you don't let him beat you.
Yeah.
So that's my number one position battle for me.
Yeah, I think West Virginia, stating the obvious here, dodged a bullet by Jordan Tyson being out. And I think it kind of goes back, and yours and mine kind of go together a little bit. If you can, it seems like the passing game for Arizona State is going to be semi-limited without Tyson and Sims not being his strong suit as a quarterback. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you. If you can limit those areas for Arizona State, you feel pretty good. And you have to think that Zach Alley and this defense, we talked about how good they've been. I mean, 7 sacks last week. They've been playing aggressive, and so completely agree with you there.
And this is kind of off topic, but this is a stat that, and it doesn't really, I don't know that it really goes into any of the things I'm going to talk about in this show specifically, but I think it bears being talked about. During my research for this, I was looking at the last 3 games because West Virginia, I don't think you can compare the team now to the same team that was playing 4 or 5 weeks ago, right?
I agree.
So I wanted to see how they were doing the last 3 weeks. West Virginia is only giving up 2.2 yards. Let me make sure I'm giving you the correct stat here. I don't want to say it wrong. But the last 3 weeks, they're only giving up 2 yards per rush.
Yeah.
The last 3 games to their opponents. Think about that. That's pretty darn good. 2.2 yards a rush to the opponents. And we all the bad things I've said, negatively I've said, and I'm sure others have too, about the West Virginia, they've given up some big plays, but look what they're doing in the run game, stopping the run. 2.2 yards per rush.
Yeah. Yeah. So, defensively, this team, Couz, has been outstanding. There was no sacks in the first 4 losses of the Big 12. And then they had 7 last week. And they were in the backfield against Houston, and it really started again that second half against TCU. And so, yeah, I don't know that necessarily plays into what I'm talking about either, but it was just a good point in the show where you could just kind of throw a bone to them. They have played. I completely agree with you that I don't think you can compare the defense of the last 3 weeks to the team 5 and 6 weeks ago. But you know what, Couz, I'd say the same thing about the whole team, right? I mean, it's just crazy how Rich Rodriguez and Zach Alley and his staff has kind of rallied them around.
Yeah, and I don't and look, I understand to be fair, none of the opponents they've played are elite rushing teams, okay? Houston, TCU, and Colorado, okay? I get that. But Houston was running the ball pretty well. I mean, they were running the ball fairly well. That TCU and Colorado, we know they like to throw their ball around the yard a lot. So I get that. But to hold them to 50 yards rushing is pretty darn good. I don't care who you are.
Because I have to be honest with you. To me, it doesn't matter if you're West Virginia lining up against a high school football team. You're at 2 yards per rush. It's pretty dang good. I mean, listen, these are Division I athletes that they're playing. Even if running the football is not the strong suit, I mean, those are still – they're on scholarship too.
Yep, I agree. You know? All right. I didn't mean to get off too much, but I that was a stat. I was taken aback by that. I had no idea. I knew the overall yards had been pretty low, but I didn't realize 2.2 yards per rush kind of breaks it down even further, and it's super impressive.
Yeah.
What's your second position battle to watch?
Yeah, how about this, Couz? Because I think we both believe, and I talked about it earlier, and well, you did too, that this is going to be a very close matchup, especially towards the end. How about special teams versus special teams? You know, has West Virginia quietly had a pretty good season on special teams?
The last few weeks they have.
The last few weeks, and it just kind of ties right into everything that's been going in their way, their favor the last couple of weeks. You know, Oliver Straw, everybody knows Ollie's had a great season. Cade Hensley's starting to kick some field goals, had a career-high 50-yarder. How about Nate Flower, Couz? You know, I feel like a lot of people have always said, could we not just have somebody that kicked the ball through the end zone? For years. And if I told the random West Virginia fan, hey, do you know who Nate Flower is? They may say, well, let me think, no. But I bet they have realized every time that football gets kicked through. And so that's been great, and it's not talked about. And then how about the block last week, the punt block? The special teams has really turned it on, as is the entire football team. And because I think this is going to be a close game, and because I do think West Virginia has to play very well in all areas, it could quite be that the special teams is the difference maker. And if you're West Virginia right now, you have to feel pretty good about where you sit.
I like that. I like it. You know, when we first started doing this show, you used to bring out special teams a lot.
Love me some special teams.
You hadn't done it in a while, and I've actually done it a couple times the past few weeks. So
this team has earned. They've really earned it the last couple of weeks, and I just think that this is going to be a very close game. And that punt block, that 50-yard field goal, or that kicking the ball through the end zone could be the difference.
Agreed. All right, my second position battle to watch is the West Virginia receivers versus the Arizona State secondary. And I know Rich Rod's going to run the rock a lot, but you can't be one-dimensional. And ASU has some players back there. Their overall coverage grade as a team is 1, I believe, is what I saw earlier. It was over 80, so it's really good. 81.2. I got it wrote down here. 81.2. Now, they've only intercepted 6 passes this year, but they do have 42 passes defended. And they have a defensive back named Keith Abney II, who has 9 pass breakups and a pick. So he's playing really good football right now. It's a pretty solid group back there. So can you make some plays in the pass game if you're Cam Vaughn or Jeffrey Weimer? And, of course, you got to throw Scotty Fox, the quarterback, right? How he throws the ball matters here too. But can those receivers get open and give Scotty Fox somebody to throw the ball to? I think that's going to be critical in this game in order to take some pressure off of Dior Hubbard in that running attack. Assuming he's playing, right? I know he was banged up last week, and we're recording this before the initial availability report comes out, so we don't know yet. But yeah, I'd like to see, you know, you said get the ball to Cam Vaughn, 100% agree. But, you know, Rodney Gallagher, Jeff Weimer, and some other guys are going to have to help him out there a little bit. And of course, Scotty's got to get him the football. But can you make some plays in the pass game against that Arizona State secondary? I think that's going to be important in this game.
Yeah, because I'm curious to see, as you noted, what this West Virginia running attack looks like. Offensive line's been banged up. Running backs have been banged up. I mean, we kind of laughed about it last week, but turned out to come to fruition. You know, you're putting Curtis Jones Jr. in running back. Now, with all due respect to Curtis Jones Jr., I don't really think that's the route Rich Rodriguez wants to go. A lot of injuries, kind of depleted there. Yeah, you got to find ways to move the football, and it's definitely one I'd keep an eye on those receivers for sure.
By the way, I've been flashing up on the screen as we go through the show, but for those of you listening, this game, just as a reminder, it's Saturday at 1 p.m., and not 12 p.m., but 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and it is airing on TNT HBO Max again, I believe. So TNT gets another Big 12 game. West Virginia fans have been really happy with TNT's coverage.
That's been really good.
As have I. What do you think about the ref cam, by the way? Wasn't that pretty cool?
Yeah, because if I can be as honest as I can with you, I think the production is it's better than ESPN production.
I agree.
I mean, it's It's really good. I think they're kind of been innovative in ways. First off, the broadcast crew is really good. The graphics are good. The cameras are good. That ref cam, they're doing little things like that. Unbelievably impressed. But Couz, what an early start for Arizona State.
11 a.m. for them.
Kind of surprising, but we'll take it. We talked about the Houston game.
We did.
It was a little, maybe we'll just say that had something to do with it.
Maybe. All right, who is your key player to watch for the Mountaineers in this one?
Mentioned him earlier, Couz. I'm going to go back to the well. I think Cam Vaughn steps up this week. I'm going to go with him. I just don't think that you can have a player of his talent and his caliber and have him catch 3 passes combined in the last 2 weeks. I think he'll be a focal point of this offense this week. And it may not be completely downfield targets. It may be those 4 and 5 yard routes. I think that Scotty Fox and Cam Vaughn will work this week to kind of iron out. And again, some of those were just overthrows, misthrows, and hey, can't put it all on Scotty Fox. There have been a couple drops, specifically last week, that Cam Vaughn should have had. But I think those are kinks that you have to work out a little bit, right? And so they're still learning on the fly. I really anticipate Cam Vaughn to have, especially with questions with this running attack for West Virginia, I think this could be one of those 6 to 8, 10 catch games for Cam Vaughn. And so I think he's going to be my breakout player this week.
I like it. I'm going to go, I don't want to go as far as to say he's a breakout player, but I will say, and I hope you're right, by the way, because I think if that happens, they win the game. But also, so I don't want to say breakout player, but because he's already kind of done that. But I think it's critical, and this is kind of an obvious answer, but it's Dior Hubbard, because West Virginia is 5th in the country in rushes per game with 45. They like to run the football. On the season, they're rushing at 60.95%, so 61% of the time. The last 3 games, they've rushed it 59% of the time. If you're going to rush it that many times, you better have a running back that can rush it that many times.
Yeah.
Or at least majority of it. And Dior Hubbard so far has been that guy.
Yeah.
Can he continue it? And if he's too banged up, you better hope Curtis Jones can step in and get, run the ball at least 10, 15 times to take pressure off of Sincere Bowers, because he'll have to step up and be the starter.
Who has struggled holding on to the football.
Yeah, he's fumbled it a couple times this year already. So, yeah, that's concerning. We assume Dior's going to be able to play. Banged up doesn't mean injured. Hopefully he'll be able to play. But as much as West Virginia likes to run the football, and Arizona State is not bad at stopping the run per se, but they're also not great at it either. They're giving up 4.5 yards per rush. No, I'm sorry. They're giving up, I was looking at the wrong thing. They're giving up 4.1 yards per rush the last 3 games. So there might be an opportunity there, some opportunities for West Virginia to get some yards in the run game. If the offensive line, the offensive line took a step up last week. They didn't play great, but they played arguably their best game of the season, or at least one of them.
Yeah.
Can they continue getting even better and play even better this week? Open up a few running lanes? I think they can. I really like, Arizona State's run defense is good, but I wouldn't put it up there. I don't think it's as good as Houston's was, and they were able to run it against Houston. So I feel like this team will be able to run the football at least somewhat successfully, especially late in the game, like we talked about earlier. So obviously Dior Hubbard's going to be a big piece of that.
I completely agree, and I think the biggest question mark, and we've talked about it, what's the health of Dior Hubbard? Because he was struggling last week in terms of the leg. He was sore. You could tell. We even kind of joked that, that's what hard edge looks like. I mean, he was hurt, but you wouldn't know it from the way he played. So the biggest question for me is, what's that health? What's that concern? Sincere Bowers is capable, but he's smaller. And you didn't see much of him last week after he put that ball on the floor and on the turf. And so ideally, I think West Virginia's not a route they want to go consistently for 18, 20 carries for Bowers. And so, again, we're recording this before an initial injury report, so availability report. So a lot of it's going to come down to how healthy is Dior Hubbard.
Yep. They do have a bye week coming up, so I would imagine unless he's just injured, because there's a difference between hurt and injured. So I would say unless he's injured, he's probably playing, right?
I would think so.
He'll play through a little bit of pain. But, unless it's something like Ty Edwards was dealing with that just, he can't play through. But
and he's not going to carry the ball a ton, but it does make you wonder. It sounds like Clay Ash was kind of not a game time decision last week, but was on the fence about playing. So if he's back this week, gives you another option. But obviously, Hubbard is the guy.
Yep, he has become that guy. And and I didn't realize this, Jonathan. Did you hear Rich Rod talk about how he wasn't even on the travel team? He did not even make the travel roster early in the season.
Yeah. Well, I think he's earned a little bit more than that going.
Absolutely.
And then in the wonderful world of college sports we live in now, you've got to ask yourself, what's the future hold, and has he made a name for himself? But that's another topic, I guess, for another day.
And now, so he went from not being on the travel rosters to getting Big 12 Freshman of the Week and having 158 yards from scrimmage, or I guess that's the way it's worded, but, pass receiving and rushing yards combined last week in that win over Colorado. So,
which does it not seem? Am I alone in this, that it seems strange that he's just a freshman? I just feel like that the name has been around.
Technically, he's a redshirt freshman,
right? But I mean, I guess I feel like the name we've talked about him in the running back room for a while.
It seems like I'm with you too. It is kind of weird. Even Coach Roddy said I didn't even know he was a freshman. But I think I think he was a fairly highly touted recruit. I think he was one of the guys that came in the 2024 class that I think we were all pretty excited about. So that's probably why he's been mentioned, probably more so than a lot of other backup running backs. And then Coach Rod talked about him so much in the preseason too, that we kind of assumed he was going to be the backup running back this year.
Yeah, and credit to him, right? I mean, he was not supposed to be a part of the plan necessarily this year. Jaheim White, obviously. Ty Edwards, obviously. They brought in Katzer. They brought in Sincere Bowers. They brought in, who was the other running back?
Tyler Jacklich.
Yeah, who's the one?
And Andre Devine.
Who's the one that didn't make it academically last second from Miami? And
Jalen Knighton.
Yeah. So Dior Hubbard was not part of the plan this year. So good for him. Good for him to step up and make a name for himself.
Yep, I'm happy for him. All right, score prediction time. Spread on the game upon time of recording over at DraftKings, and this surprised me, but it's Arizona State at -11.5.
Yeah.
What you got?
And it does make you wonder, and you said this to me, I think, off camera earlier, does make you wonder with the news of Jordan Tyson been out, if that shrinks a little bit, if Arizona State coming off of a bye, then I guess you do have to kind of wonder how much of that goes into West Virginia, not just on the road, but traveling pretty far out west. Because on paper, I think this is a game West Virginia can win. I think it's a game that West Virginia will be in to the very end of the game. I think ultimately, I have some concerns that West Virginia is going to be able to run the football the way they want to run the football, just because those concerns about the health way greater maybe than they should. 28-17, I think Arizona State wins. I think West Virginia struggled offensively a little bit last week against Colorado, and I'm just not sure they're going to go on the road this week and put up 25, 30 points, which I think is what it's going to take to get a win. So 28-17 Arizona State.
Fair enough. I'm going to go a little bit different direction. I actually feel good about this game for some odd reason. I don't know if it's the fact that, the bye week might cause Arizona State to come out sluggish. With Tyson and Levitt both being out, their two best players on the entire team are out, at least offensively. And then West Virginia's momentum, unless they take another step backwards, I really like the momentum of the team. I think they got Arizona at the right spot. Now, had they played Arizona 2-3 weeks ago, I wouldn't feel this way. But with those two guys being out, I don't trust Jeff Sims as a passer. I think West Virginia will turn him over a couple times. I think now the offense is good enough to capitalize on those turnovers and go score with it. And I do think it'll be close. But like I mentioned earlier, I think West Virginia has the ability to wear down Arizona State late with their conditioning and with their running game. So I'm actually going to go out on a limb and pick West Virginia to win the game outright in a close one, 30-28.
Wow. Well, I didn't pick West Virginia to win, but I will say that if West Virginia can score 31 points, they'll win this football game. And I will agree there. I think the question for me is not as much about Arizona State as much as West Virginia offensively. So, yeah, I think if West Virginia scores 31 points, I think they win the football game. I completely agree with you there, for sure.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think they'll get a couple turnovers that might give them good field position, and the special teams I think will come into play. I'm not saying they'll get a special teams touchdown again or anything like that, but I feel really good about them being able to capitalize on some Arizona State mistakes, like they've really done the last couple of games. They've been able to capitalize on the other team's mistakes, and they weren't doing that earlier in the year. So I think that'll continue, and I think Arizona State will be one-dimensional. And if they had Sam Levitt back there, I think that would be okay, but they don't. So.
Yeah. I agree with you. First trip to Arizona State since 1979. Trivia question before we wrap it up. West Virginia has one player on the roster from the state of Arizona. Who is it?
Nico Marchiol.
It was kind of a trick question because it would be obvious, but, when you got however many players on the team, you got to think.
Yeah. Well, and, technically, he's originally from Colorado, but they moved to Arizona.
Claims Arizona. Yep.
He claims Arizona, yeah.
Well, you did good. Bonus points for the host.
All right. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Real quick, this will be coming out before the Backyard Brawl game. Just real quick thoughts on that game. Let's touch on that before we head out.
The Backyard Brawl is always a big game. I'm liable to take a beating in the comments for this. I think it means a little bit more in football than it does basketball. I'm prepared to take a beating for that. And here's what I mean. Because, listen, I'm a believer that anytime you keep score, you need to play hard, and it's competitive, and you should try and win. I also believe that anytime you play it in a sport,
you should try and win.
The thing about basketball over football is you've got so many more opportunities, not necessarily to beat Pitt, but you've got so many more opportunities to get big wins and have a successful season. And I would look back no further than last year. It was last year where DeVries took that team to Pittsburgh, and it did not go good. I mean, it was bad. Now, the ending of the season didn't necessarily pan out the way West Virginia wanted, but it wasn't shortly after that loss to Pitt where West Virginia got some pretty significant wins and thought, shoot, we're good. You know what I mean? Like the Gonzaga win and several things. And so it's a big deal, but I think because it's basketball, it's a little bit maybe more of an afterthought than it would be for the football game, if that makes sense. Having said that, I really like where West Virginia is at right now. I think I've been a little bit skeptical of the team early on. I think this past Sunday in their win at home was probably the best that they've looked. They took care of the ball. Honor Huff, Trace and Eaglestaff looked to get a little bit more comfortable. So I like what I saw. I feel better going into the game this week after seeing what West Virginia did on Sunday. But Pitt's got a pretty good basketball team. Now they're going to be without a star player, we believe, one of their better players. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Glad it's going to be at the Coliseum, the Hope Coliseum.
The Hope Coliseum.
Makes you wonder if Bob Huggins makes an appearance. He's been spending time at Pitt here recently.
Yeah, he has. Supporting his guy, Jay Kuntz.
Yeah. Who I would hope gets a nice reception. I mean, they're obviously not going to announce his name, but he's going to be there. I would hope that he gets a warm welcome. He did nothing but good stuff. He did nothing but good. Listen, Jay's got a family. He's got to go to where he can pay the bills. And he did a really nice job for West Virginia during his time. And I don't have any doubt that if things were quote unquote normal, Jay'd still be in Morgantown.
He would be. And, and that's not, and by being at Pitt, he's also still close to home, right? He can still
100%. 100%. So
I'm sure that was a part of his decision.
So how do you feel? I know you've talked about this team, but
I like it. I mean, I kind of feel like you. I don't get quite as passionate about it as I do the football Backyard Brawl, but obviously you always want to beat Pitt. And again, like you, there are so many times if you do drop a game in basketball, you have another game in a few days, that same week to correct yourself, right, and get things right. So you don't have to live with it as long, But I do think West Virginia has a really good chance to win the game. I think their ability to turn people over bodes well for them. I do think that Pitt has a big man he's really good. He's a double-double guy, but he also commits a lot of fouls.
Yeah.
So, and I actually didn't even talk about this much in my preview show, but if they can get Harlan Obioha the ball a lot down low, he might get fouled a lot and get to the line a lot potentially. I like that. And I got a gut feeling, and I could be completely wrong, but I've got a gut feeling that you're going to see Honor Huff and or Trace and Eaglestaff light up the scoreboard in this game. I got a feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they're getting more comfortable. And I would also just include too that right now, this West Virginia team, let's not forget that they're going to look really different here in a couple weeks when Chance Moore and Jackson Fields come back off of suspension and injury. So they're going to look different too. And to the point earlier, West Virginia is going to play Ohio State, neutral site, Wake Forest, who took top 10 Michigan into overtime. It's going to be a tough game in Charleston. There's the Thanksgiving trip where there's several bigger schools listed there. And so I guess it just where games are turned around so quickly in basketball, listen, it doesn't mean you don't want to win. You always want to beat Pitt, but the turnaround is so much quicker, and there's so much more to look forward to. And hey, because we always throw in the women's team, Oh, and Friday night, this episode will be out. They play at the Greenbrier against, I think Duke is number 17 in the country. And so would be a great opportunity for Coach Kellogg and the ladies to get a pretty big win.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I saw, gosh darn it, Couz, I shouldn't even said it. I saw a stat that West Virginia's women are undefeated at home going back like the last year and a half, 2 years.
That sounds right, actually.
Shoot.
I haven't seen it, but that sounds right because I was thinking, I'm pretty sure that sounds pretty close because I'm pretty confident they were undefeated last year.
Yeah, I think it's been like almost 2 years. Of course, obviously the Greenbrier is not going to be home, but you'd have to think that was going to be a very, very, very pro West Virginia crowd.
You would think so.
So it'd be really good for them because they got a good basketball team. And so if you've not had a chance to watch them, I'd encourage you to do that. They've got a really good basketball team, some transfers in this year that are making some plays. And so they're going to be fun to watch, as are the men. So, yeah, exciting time. So West Virginia, the football team's winning. Well, you know what? Because if West Virginia could win the Backyard Brawl in basketball on Thursday and women's team could beat Duke on Friday and football team win on Saturday, we will do something special on this show. I don't know.
And potentially land a couple really, really huge recruits. Two of the biggest in program history in both basketball and potentially football in the next week to 2 weeks.
Game changers. And Couz, I hate to label recruits, especially high school seniors, as game changers, but by all intents and purposes, these are two of the most highly rated recruits in the history of West Virginia football and West Virginia basketball. It appears things are looking really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And by the way, for those who may not know, we're talking about Miles Sadler in basketball. He's a 5-star player. Jonathan probably knows more details about him than I do, if you want to share those.
Yeah. 5-star recruit. I think he's a number 26 overall, but I think he's a number 2 point guard. Originally from Canada, I believe it was, playing in Arizona. Has got a connection to the West Virginia coaching staff. Believe that there are reports out there, and it gets a little bit twisted here because of how exactly recruits were rated and what services were rating them and so forth and so on. But I believe Sadler would be the highest rated recruit to ever commit to West Virginia basketball. And so that is going to come down Sunday, that decision.
Assuming he picks West Virginia, yes.
Assuming he picks
he's making
West
his
Virginia.
announcement Sunday. Yeah.
And it should also be noted, it's not the gospel, but 247, who does their crystal ball predictions, who admittedly has been wrong before, but they're pretty plugged into these type things, him crystal ball to West Virginia. And then Kevin Brown, offensive lineman out of Pennsylvania, who, I mean, everybody wants, was committed to Penn State. Coaching change there, backed off of that between West Virginia and Ohio State. And as we would expect from a high school senior, he's teased this a little bit and has been wearing some West Virginia gloves during his high school football games recently. So a lot of momentum on the recruiting trail. That's for sure.
And, and outside of Brown, without getting into too many details, there are 3 or 4 other really, really good high school football players that have West Virginia high on their list. There's a defensive lineman, there's a safety, there's a linebacker, and there's one more that I can't even. I think it's another DB, maybe. A
couple of which were committed to Penn State.
Yes.
And so, yeah, a lot to go. We may have to have a recruiting show maybe coming up here. So
yeah, maybe we should. But yeah, it's things are looking up, man. Again, we probably won't get all of these guys I just mentioned, but man, Kevin Brown would be. I'm telling you, I get chill bumps with thinking about this kid. That's how good he is, man. He's a division, in my opinion, a Power 4 starting offensive lineman right now.
Son of a former Mountaineer.
Now. Yeah, I think he's that good.
Yeah, yeah. And West Virginia, the weakness has been this season 2 things: one controllable, one not. Offensive line and injuries. And so you start to look at West Virginia projection into next year. Landon Livingston, we think, has performed well, and there's a couple others, but if you can put Brown in there in the mix, and I think the biggest takeaway from it, Couz, is we keep hearing about West Virginia has money to spend, and what better signal to the fan base that we have money to spend than go out and get somebody like that
who's a high 6-figure, potentially 7-figure kid.
Yeah.
I shouldn't call him a kid, young man. Well, I mean,
yeah.
Technically still a kid, I guess, right now, but. He's a kid to me. I'm an old man.
Yeah. And those NILs are tough to nail down, Couz, because they're just kind of reported, but they're never really. But there have been reports that suggest it could be close to $1 million.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that.
Well, sure, it's not my money. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
A tiny fraction of it is mine, but not much.
A very tiny fraction. But going back, if West Virginia wins the Backyard Brawl Thursday, beats Duke on Friday and Arizona State on Saturday, and let's just throw in another one, lands Miles Sadler on a Sunday. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I don't know what we're going to do next week, but we're going to have a whole lot of fun doing it. That's for sure.
I don't know either. You caught me off guard with that one.
Well,
buddy.
Me too. Your show, your expenses. Get your checkbook out. Get your checkbook out.
Well, darn it. I was going to give that money to Kevin Brown. I guess I can't now.
Not now. And if he commits on Monday, what can we do next Tuesday? Because we record on Wednesday. We need to stagger. We've got a couple days we need to work on.
Yeah, man. That would be huge.
It really would.
Man.
It would.
You got my hopes up now.
Stay tuned.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, we're going to sign off. You guys have listened to us banter enough. You're probably tired of hearing us at this point. We appreciate you tuning into the show. Don't forget our sponsors, Appalachia Digital and DraftKings Sportsbook, the sports betting partner of the NFL. Don't forget to check out our website, which is now much more user-friendly. We've got that annoying pop-up off the screen that some of you have complained about. We've got some of the ads removed that you've been complaining about. We're trying to upscale and meet your needs and give you what you asked for. So go check out WVSportsChat.com for your written West Virginia content. Jonathan, myself, and some others are doing a lot of work over there, so go check us out. Thanks for tuning into the show. God bless you. Let's go Mountaineers and Q Country Roads.